Dark Souls 1 is maybe my favorite game ever. I was and still am obsessed with the game. But what about Dark Souls 2? As a newer Soulsborne player, I have been loving these games. Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 1, and even Dark Souls 2. In today's video, I will be talking about if I think Dark Souls 2 is truly a bad game based off of my own personal experience thus far. So my first initial thoughts on Dark Souls 2. Going into it, I knew a few things. The first is that it is the most hated Souls game, and the other is Miyazaki was working on Bloodborne while he left at Dark Souls 2. So this was the game that was Miyazaki-less. With that information, coming off of peak Dark Souls 1 and a little bit of Bloodborne, I still thought Dark Souls 2 was going to be peak. As soon as I got to the tutorial, I knew something was up. Here's my issue with the tutorial. There's no boss. Maybe, and this is a big maybe, I'm an idiot and I accidentally skipped it. Alright, after creating another character to do the tutorial on and expansive Google search, there isn't a set tutorial boss. But that's my issue. Give me a boss, please. My experience in the tutorial was way different from Dark Souls 1. In DS1, I loved the tutorial and it is one of my favorite parts. Just knowing you start out killing a boss in a place that you come back to later for optional content, I think it makes it so much more memorable and exciting. For Dark Souls 2, there just isn't a boss? Unless you count the giant hippos as the boss down here. Honestly, I can understand that too. They are pretty hard to kill. Anyway, let's move on to something a lot of players can get behind, the hitboxes. My experience with Dark Souls 1 hitboxes was pretty good. Other than maybe Bat of Chaos pushing you off while rolling, it was still pretty good. In Dark Souls 2, as soon as the tutorial came in, I noticed some of my swings should be hitting when they didn't. If we go to the bosses as well, like, why is this not connecting? Alright, this brings me to my biggest personal issue with Dark Souls. Oh, and by the way, we will be going over things I like about the game later after I go through my issues. Anyway, you have to lock on. Listen, I understand it's a good feature, but personally, I just can't stand it. It makes the camera feel and look weird to me, but I'm getting used to it as I go. I just personally don't like it, and it causes me to panic sometimes as the camera moves around so sporadically. And lastly, my biggest issue with Dark Souls 2 is the iframes and dodging. I think if you've played Dark Souls at all, you will understand this. The iframes are ridiculous in DS2. Even going as far to when you're interacting or entering a fog gate, you are vulnerable to an attack. This straight up doesn't sit right with me, and it can be super annoying, especially as a newer player just trying to run through areas to get back to a boss fight quicker. Alright, but let's talk about the dodges. So this is an interesting topic. So dodges in the game are very weird, but in Dark Souls 2, I was constantly getting hit by attacks, and then I saw a video saying that iframes of a dodge are at the beginning of the animation, which I'm not sure how that feels to other games, but to me, it feels way too early. Again, that might just be a me thing. I know you can upgrade adaptability in order to negate this a little bit, but why should I have to waste souls on that? I guess agility is cool and whatnot though, but in my opinion, I don't think it should work like that. Who knows though, maybe I'll come around to it later. Anyway, those are just the three biggest things I don't like about Dark Souls 2 so far. There's a few more things like little nitpicks that I don't like, but let me know if you want a more detailed video in the comments below. And real quick before we go on, please subscribe. It's the best way to support me, and it makes sure you don't miss any videos. As far as Destiny videos, I'm officially done with those, so your subscription will really help me get back into the YouTube game. Thank you, and back to the video. Alright, now on to 3 of the biggest things I like about the game, starting simply with the animations. In Dark Souls 1, plenty of weapons feel clunky, and the roll happened very suddenly. Your character just kind of like unleashes themselves. Anyway, the roll in DS2 looks great, the swings look great, and the animation is overall so smooth and a lot better. Even little things such as climbing ladders are better. Also, thank you FromSoft for giving us quick climb on ladders now. The subtle changes like this in movements are just so good, and the animations are truly amazing. Now, the Estus taking 20 years to drink is not awesome though. Another one of the fan favorite parts of the game is the built-in warping system. I don't think you could ever overhype this. It's so crucial, especially in these open world type games. Some people even say Dark Souls 1 doesn't start until you get the Lord Vessel to warp with. It saves so much time and it isn't really necessary, but I appreciate FromSoftware putting this in, especially with how soul leveling works in Dark Souls 2, where you need to go to Majula to upgrade your Estus and level up. Imagine having to run there after every single fight. I'm just glad they thought it through though. I can appreciate it. And lastly, the world is just overall beautiful. When I first saw Majula after the tutorial, the only word I thought was literally beautiful. And this, as the main hub for the game, it's perfect. I didn't think it was going to get any better. And then I found Hyde's Tower. I love this area. Not even just for the bosses or the enemies, they're pretty good too, but the area is so beautiful. I'm really weird, I like water, so seeing a water area just was awesome to me. And the connection you can clearly see to Majula makes it feel so much more special. It makes the game a lot more interconnected and makes you feel like you're actually doing something important. And that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments what your favorite area in the game is. Also, let me know your most hated and most loved parts of Dark Souls 2. I'd love to hear your input. Again, this is just my thoughts as a beginner in Dark Souls 2. Please subscribe for more. I'm now fully transitioning into the Dark Souls content, and if you want to see it live, I stream it here on YouTube. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.